Hello, and welcome back to the Piping Pasture. Well, today I am rather happy to say I am enjoying my very first corncob pipe ever, thanks to the Hoot and Briar. So, cheers! And in it, I thought, well, you know what? I'm not an aromatic person, typically, but it seemed appropriate to have an aromatic in a corncob pipe. So, I am enjoying some Eileen's Dream inside my new corncob. Um, this smokes really well, and the stem you're not gonna be able to see very well in this light, but it's a really rather beautiful blue stem as well, and it's clinchable, it's comfortable, it smokes well, burns well. So I am uh, I am now a fan of the corn cob. So thank you very much, Rob. I also got a kind note from him about enjoying the corn cob, and of course a new book. So the Mark Twain Wit and Wisecracks. Now, one of the things that was mentioned was that there was a hope that I would continue on sharing some of the wit and wisdom of Mark Twain, and so I have every intention of doing so. And in point of fact, I'm going to have another series of videos. So I'll have theology talks, I'll have poetry in the Bible, and then I'll have another series, wit and wise cracks of Mark Twain. So we can continue learning from America's best known humorist, Mark Twain. I will pause for the sirens. One of the hazards of doing the videos outside. Later that same day, goodness, okay. So the weather is beautiful outside. It's nice to have a cold brew coffee and a pipe on the back porch, but between the wind and the traffic, sometimes it makes recording a bit difficult. But I was looking through the book today, and this quote caught my eye in a particular reason because I have uh, some more little treasures I'm going to share with you all that I found on a recent book hunt. But I thought this quote from Twain really set this up well. It says here, "We despise all reverences and all the objects of reverence which are outside the pale of our own list of sacred things. And yet, with strange inconsistency, we are shocked when other people despise and defile the things which are holy to us." And I could not agree more. We oftentimes get so um, cut off or insulated into our own communities, especially in when we talk about religion and so forth, that we are incapable of having discussions of religion outside of our own, or whatever your personal religious uh, philosophy, faith, tradition is. And we get this narrow view where our things are sacred or our things are holy, and everyone else is just wrong or they're just misunderstanding our reality. And that's a shame because even though we may not follow those other religious faith traditions, we can learn from them. That's the benefit of pluralism. It's a benefit of academic inquiry. I can, as an evangelical Christian minister, I can understand my faith better looking through the eyes of a Hindu, because the questions that a Hindu person may ask, or a Buddhist person, or some such religion, um, they're going to be different, and they're going to force me to examine my own faith and to look at my own faith and understand my own faith in a different way. So taking that into account, we should always take advantage of the fact that we live in such a wide uh, a widely ranged country here with religious freedom, so that we can have those kind of conversations with other people and have them freely, and then learn more about our own selves. Speaking of which, I haven't done a poetry in the Bible video in a wee while, And it might be a few more days yet since, because there's been a great deal of interest in the eschatology series. So I'm really going to strive to get that one nearly all the way through before I go back to the poetry and the Bible series. Um, but when we do, I found some excellent things. I lean towards the metaphysical poets. I like that genre of literature. I find it compelling, and of course, it crosses into my own theological views as well. So I find those really, for me, to be fulfilling poets to read and to study. But there are several other different kinds of poetry out there, and I stumbled across a few copies like I said, in a recent book hunt in a couple of different shops here, and so I wanted to share some of these with you that I'll be getting into in my poetry in the Bible series. And this first one here is on modern Chinese poetry by Yip, and it's a collection, it's an anthology, but this is contemporary Chinese poetry. So classical Chinese poetry is really rather popular. I have a great deal of it. The I Ching, which you may have heard of, the Book of Changes, is in that poetic genre of literature. But contemporary Chinese poetry deals with a great many more things regarding the struggles of everyday life in a modern sense. And this carries right in from the beginning of communism through the 1980s. So there's a great deal of strife in there that the Chinese people are dealing with, and poetry that is related to that. And speaking of that, I loved the title of this anthology here. Load poems like guns, and this is women's poetry from Afghanistan. So the the poets in there are, as you can understand, dealing with a great deal and really pouring their hearts out. And this is, again, it's contemporary poetry, it's not classical poetry. So we're dealing much more with modern times. But it's not all contemporary poetry. I have another one here, and this is called Tibet's True Heart. It's by Wooster, and this is classical Tibetan poetry. So it's in the classic one. And then finally, Words of Paradise, the poetry of Papua New Guinea. And again, this is classical poetry from the island of Papua New Guinea, edited by Bier, who is a scholar of that region. So a lot of very different perspectives, a lot of very exciting stuff, and I'm really looking forward to getting into it. So, but that will be in days to come. And again, look forward to sharing some more wit and wisdom from Twain. I might put Twain in conversation with some poets, or put Twain in conversation with the Bible, or just theology more generally, and expand upon some of the wit that he is so famous for. So, to end, I'm going to turn my attention back to this wonderful new pipe and enjoy the rest of my afternoon here on the porch. I hope you do the same. Have a lovely week, and as always, happy reading.